Former cheaters, how did your secret finally blow up in your face? I once got drunk at a boat party in Hong Kong and later that evening called an already existing side piece. We hooked up and both passed out all bare in my bed. I woke up to the sound of the front door opening. I had the top deadbolt on, so I had to get up completely bare to see my girlfriend's half face staring through the half-cracked door, shocked that the deadbolt was locked. Still half drunk and fully bare, I was already saying, "I'm so sorry," and stupidly opened the door. She asked, "Why are you without clothes?" The other girl came out of the bedroom fully clothed, excused herself, and walked past both of us. My girlfriend yelled, "Who the hell is that?" while I tried to find my boxers. She ran after the other girl down the hallway of the apartment building, and I stopped her and pulled her back inside. An argument followed. She screamed while I tried to calm her down. She ran into the kitchen, grabbed a knife, and I stopped her and took it away. She broke glass and tried to hurt herself. I stopped her again, grabbed her, and did my best to calm her down, repeating that I was sorry. There was crying, screaming, and fear. After a few hours, things settled and she finally slept. The next day we talked. She wanted to forgive me, but I said no. I told her I had screwed up. She tried to stay, but I said no again and apologized. Things ended badly. I couldn't believe she was willing to forgive me and take me back, but I couldn't put her through that. We never spoke again. Fast forward 2 years later, I found out through a friend that she is now in a lesbian relationship and doing well. I'm happy for her, and to this day, I have never cheated again, because that was the scariest thing I have ever put someone through, and I never wanted to relive it. Story 2, I lived in a small, boring town, and when we got our first Applebee's, it was a big deal. My side chick insisted I take her there for lunch. When the check came, I tried to leave the waitress a 20. Bad idea. My date thought I was trying to hit on the waitress with the large tip and got upset. "Oh, Mr. Sinatra, why don't you spend a little of that cash on me instead?" she said. Her ridicule shamed me into pulling back the 20 and leaving a 5 instead. Bad idea. That night, my actual girlfriend developed a sudden craving for Applebee's. I tried to weasel my way out of going again, but she wore me down. And we ended up with the same waitress. She was none too pleased to see me after that weak tip. "Back again? You two really like to eat good in the neighborhood," the waitress said. My girlfriend gave her a strange look and the waitress added, "Oh, and I love the new pixie cut. Much easier to manage." My girlfriend looked nothing like my mistress. The waitress was just playing dumb, acting like a haircut was involved to rat me out. And it worked. My girlfriend figured out I had been sleeping with that coworker with hair down to her A. Story 3. Back then, before I was married, I was a total serial cheater. The worst was my girlfriend at the time knocking on my window at 5 a.m. while I had some woman in my bed that I'd met at a bar my band was playing in. Another time, pre-social media, her girlfriend told her I'd been seeing a third friend of theirs. It was not fun coming out of work to see my car soaked with loser, cheater, and so forth. Yet another time, my band was opening for a relatively more famous band. After our set and packing up, I ended up making out with some woman at the bar just as my girlfriend decided to stop in and check on me. Fun times. Moral of the story: don't have a girlfriend when you're young and in a band. And don't be a douchebag like I was. I could blame it on the alcohol and drugs I was consuming in vast amounts at the time. But the honest truth is that I was an a-hole, and I regret it. Story 4. I came back into town a day early and went to surprise him at work. I found him with another secretary. He was a secretary too. He didn't see me, so I took a quick photo and snuck back out. I went home, called my friends and family, and they came over to help me pack up all his stuff and change the locks. I dumped his belongings at his mom's house, sent him the picture of him and the other woman, and informed him that he and his things now resided with his mother. Edit. He worked in a small lawyer's office, 2 lawyers and 2 secretaries. The lawyers were out for whatever reason. I don't remember why. This happened many years ago. I came in, saw no one at the front desks, and went to the break room. The door was open, so I was able to peek inside when I heard the obvious noises. The house was mine, and all the documents were in my name. He received no mail there and lived paycheck to paycheck. I had no idea what he spent his money on since I paid all the bills. He spent the next few weeks begging me to take him back, bothering my friends, showing up at my job, and caterwauling in the street in front of the house. Eventually, he got bored and stopped. I have no idea what happened to him after that. I haven't seen or heard from him again. Edit 2. I'm aware it's illegal to throw someone out of their house. I'm also aware that I didn't give a flying F about the laws. Story 5, I caught my ex thanks to Pokémon Go of all things. She mentioned that Pokémon Go was using a lot of her data. I explained that she could check her phone's settings to see how much data each app was using. When I showed her, it became clear that Pokémon Go wasn't the culprit. Tinder was using much more data. It was sad, but also kind of funny the way it went down. Story 6, I was on a break with my girlfriend at the time. I got a text from a girl we had mutual friends with and knew kind of well. We started having dirty conversations, talking about sleeping together, and so on. Turns out my girlfriend had gotten a burner phone with a different number and was the one sending me the text the whole time. She was not pleased. Edit. She did not like pina coladas, so it was a total bust from the start. Story 7. A buddy of mine was cheating on his wife with a cam girl. They were a very religious, church-going couple in their 20s. The cam girl ended up blackmailing him for $500, threatening to send videos to his entire friends list, including his wife, parents, grandma, and pastor. He paid her off, but when she asked for another $500, he confessed. She still sent the videos. It was pretty crazy for a while. His wife considered divorce, but then she got pregnant, and they worked things out. Everything is good now. The guy really turned his life around and became a much better person. Story 8. I caught my boyfriend of 2 years cheating. He had asked me to proofread his paper on his Mac, and a text message popped up on the right side of the screen. He was sitting in bed next to me, texting some girl saying, "Good night, I love you." I deleted his entire paper, wrote, "Who's Marissa?" Saved it, told him it looked great, and left. Marissa was his girlfriend of 8 years who lived 2 hours away next to his parents. Story 9. Not me, but my wife. We had started growing distant, and we had planned a trip to see my grandparents, who live a few states away. A month before the trip, she told me she wanted to cancel it and go to a family reunion on her side of the family in a completely different state, and that she wanted to go alone, without the kids. I thought it was strange. Wouldn't you want to introduce your kids to family they've never met? But since we were growing apart, I just said, okay, maybe some time apart would be good for us. She came back and suddenly wanted to move across the country to take a hospital job that her distant aunt had offered her without asking if I was willing to move. I told her, do whatever you need to do for yourself, but you're not taking the kids. After a few days, she realized she couldn't leave without seeing the kids and begged me to forgive her. I did. Over the next month, we became even more distant than before. One day I took lunch at work and decided to go home for it, which I never do. When I got home, no one was there. So I decided to go through her computer, something I also never do. I found pictures of her with some guy she had met on Zynga Poker, who, guess where, lived in the same state as her supposed family reunion. I'd never had a panic attack until that day. I had to call my neighbor and have him sit with me because I genuinely thought I was having a heart attack. I took pictures of everything I found. Photos, emails, Facebook messages. I waited until the kids were in bed. I refused to fight or scream in front of them and laid all the evidence out for her to see. Not a fun day. Story 10, I wasn't the cheater, but the cheated. I've shared this before, but here's how I caught my ex cheating on me. My ex, many moons ago, was a complete idiot. She knew that I had many friends who lived in the same neighborhood as her ex, the guy she had left a couple of months before dating me. She always told me she was going over a girlfriend's house to study, and I had no reason not to believe her. One day, she wouldn't answer a single text. I'm not the kind of guy to text endlessly. I'd text once, maybe follow up 2 or 3 hours later. And if she still didn't reply, I'd just wait until she felt like talking. That night, I was at a friend's house, having not heard from her in maybe 12 hours. Me and some friends decided to go outside to make a pit fire in the backyard when I noticed her car in the driveway of the house behind us. I didn't know it was her ex's house at the time, but it was definitely the wrong neighborhood for her girlfriend's house. I called her sister and asked, "Where's your sister?" She said, "Oh, she's at her house." Well, I'm going frigging nuts then because I'm looking at her car right now, and this isn't her neighborhood. Her response was just, I hung up and asked my friend, who owned the house we were hanging out at, who lived in the house behind him. He said, "Oh, that's her ex-boyfriend's name's house." I called her phone, turned off. I just chilled for the next couple of hours, paid it no attention, didn't see the point in worrying. About 2 hours later, she called saying her phone had been on silent for study purposes and asked if I wanted to come over. I said, sure. I arrived a little later and she hopped in the car. As soon as she shut the door, I asked, how was studying with girlfriend's name? She gave me some bullshit answer like I didn't know. After she finished lying, I said, weird. Must have been a long walk from ex-boyfriend's house. I made sure to watch her face as I said it. She knew I knew, but wouldn't admit it. It went faster if I just give the dialogue. We were just talking things out. Why would it be okay to just go over there to do that if you have a boyfriend? Talk things out? What needs to be talked out? We've been friends for a very long time before dating. I can't just stop talking to him. So to get around that, you feel it's logical to lie to me about going to girlfriend's house? It's 11 p.m. and you've been talking it out since 10 a.m.? I tried getting a hold of you a couple of times too. Silence for a bit. So what did you guys do? She wouldn't answer or even look at me. I told her to get out of the car and just drove off. She had broken up with him the first time because he was physically abusive and didn't seem to want to do anything with himself. About a year later, she called me asking if we could try to make it work again and if I'd like to get together for dinner. I said yes and arranged a date at a fairly upscale place for Saturday at 8 p.m., told her the dress code since it was a snazzy joint. I'm not sure how long she sat there because I didn't friggin' go. Story 11. My dad was recently caught cheating on my mom after 27 years. While using his laptop, my mom noticed Facebook said, "Hello, Mike Long. Can we log you back in?" My sweet mom still had no idea he was cheating until my teenage sister broke it to her that he was using a fake account. That only opened up a whole other world of nasty surprises. Love you, Dad, but I also hate you. Story 12. I lost my job when the company closed and my wife freaked out. She said she needed a long vacation to clear her head. She wanted to go alone and got her parents to buy her a ticket to Europe for a month. I fully supported her, saying, "Go. It'll be good to spend some time by yourself and soul search. I'm sure you'll feel better after you decompress." Things got a little worse between us while waiting for the trip, so I figured she needed space sooner and started staying in our guest room apartment above the garage. One day I came into the house while she was at work and noticed a new webcam on her computer. I started up the computer and checked her email, only to find she was planning to meet some guy in Europe. They had been exchanging explicit pictures and writing romance scripts about their first intimate encounter. The scripts ended with ritualistic vows of marriage, including cutting each other's fingers and signing a love contract in blood. All this time, she was just saying she needed time off to find herself, but now I know she was planning to cheat on me in Europe, and worse. She's not even a shadow of the woman I thought I was married to. I've hired a divorce lawyer and am moving forward with dissolving all ties with her. I don't want her back at all. She can rot in hell for all I care. We've been married 8 years, and I've been the most loving, devoted husband possible. And now this. I'm going to need therapy after this because I'm scared I won't be able to trust anyone ever again. Lesson learned. Don't stick your dong in crazy. It took me 8 years to figure it out. Now I'm left wondering if this is the first time she's done this behind my back. Have I been taken for a ride this whole time? Story 13. This happened to a friend of mine. We were all on vacation, about 7 of us, and everyone was drinking. My friend and I were the only 2 who weren't. While his girlfriend was passed out, he managed to snag her phone and pulled me aside. He said, "She's cheating on me. Some guy named Joey has been texting her and meeting her after work every day. He even says how he can make her extra wet." We ended up searching names and mutual friends on Facebook. It turned out Joey was a girl. Story 14, me, but my buddy. He's such a great guy, yet every girl he's ever dated has cheated on him. The first girl apparently got so blackout drunk that she couldn't tell who was who. After a party one night, she ended up telling my friend they should do it in bathtub like they did the other night, only he had never done it in bathtub. The second girl dumped him because she was convinced he was cheating. After he swore up and down that he wasn't, he finally asked why she was so sure. She told him she had been cheating, so he must have been too. The third girl, the one he's currently with, is best friends with her most recent ex, still goes on best friend dates, and still lives with and is friends with her ex-boyfriend. It's obvious to everyone but him that he's being cheated on. He's just so sweet and naive. Story 15. Not the cheater, but the side guy. This girl I met pursued me hard. She looked through all my stuff online and eventually started stalking me in real life when things went off the rails. I wouldn't be surprised if she reads this. I know other people do too, but I'm done worrying about being doxxed. They can live with it. I met this girl and she was super into me and I was super into her. We started seeing each other. I went to a convention and she was there with her friends. I met this guy who was a little handsy. She told me he was a friends with benefits situation and pulled him aside, supposedly to tell him to cut it out because she wanted to seriously date me. She seemed sincere and he seemed okay with it. We played Street Fighter and I even shook the guy's hand. He seemed like a nice dude. What I didn't know was that they had actually been together for 4 or 5 years and he was getting ready to ask her to marry him. I continued to have no clue for about 6 months. The guy wasn't around much since he lived in another state. It wasn't until I met her friends that people kept mentioning him and I finally put it together. None of her social media showed a serious relationship at the time and she was even on several dating apps. One of them was how she originally found my profile, and she later flirted with me on it again as a cute joke. Now, I was a dumb A and tried to fix things for a while. Of course, it didn't work. Eventually, one of her best friends and roommates spilled the truth, that she had witnessed us sleeping together and told him. Everything blew up. To make things worse, when I broke things off with her, she started stalking me aggressively. One night, after lying to me about telling him the truth, she got drunk and forced herself on me after we had already taken things too far. It was awful. After that, I tried to shut everything down permanently, but she wouldn't take no for an answer and kept the other guy emotionally hooked from a distance. To my surprise, most of her friends initially took my side, They had known her for years, but apparently she had a history of crazy behavior. So, for a while, I had a solid group of supportive friends. When I finally managed to cut things completely off with her, all of that changed. She got my roommates on her side and started spreading nasty rumors about me. Somehow, she convinced a lot of people that I had been stalking her the whole time. She even got engaged to the other guy and managed to win most of her friends back. As a result, I was isolated on campus, lost my apartment, and became homeless because university officials initially sided with her and other students without checking the facts. Thank goodness I live in a one-party consent state. I had recorded everything and archived all my chats with her and others. I write about the last part a lot on Reddit. That was a year ago, and thanks to some kind people on Reddit and the fact that I recorded everything, especially the university's bullshit, I managed to stay out of trouble. I recently went public about the abuse I've experienced from her and previous partners as a male victim of domestic abuse in SA. Things are slowly improving, and I finally have stable shelter. I still have a lot of trouble trusting people. I don't know if I can ever be in a close relationship the same way again. Story 16. My ex, practically like the FBI, knew something wasn't right. She looked through a lot of things and even went as far as visiting the relationship advice subreddit, searching for 4 years and 17 minutes, and found my post. Edit. This was 3 years ago. I'm turning 20 soon. She's my ex now. We're still good friends, but that ship has sailed. Edit. Today I went back and found the conversation from when she discovered everything and screen capped it. If this gets enough attention and upvotes, I might even consider doing an interview with her since we're still close friends. Obviously, I denied it at first, but after being caught in a lie and sending the link, I resorted to saying, sorry, I didn't think this would get so much attention. I want to say that I am not proud of what I did. It was a stupid choice that ended a 4-year relationship with someone truly amazing. But without making that mistake, I wouldn't have realized how good I had it. And it's made me a better person today. A few FAQs. We started dating when we were 13. We were 18 at the time of the breakup. I had to think back to recall that, but we made it 4 years and 8 to 9 months before my mistakes ended us. Staying in a relationship at that age really isn't that hard. If you avoid peer pressure and ignore gossip, especially in school, you'll be much more successful. As long as you're happy together, it doesn't matter what anyone else thinks. Communication and honesty are essential. If something is bothering you, just say it. I don't mean blaming them for everything, but let them know if something they did hurt you annoyed you, or if you need something more. Talk it out as equals. Love is a commitment, like everything else in life. If you give up at the first bump in the road, you'll never see where the road takes you. Pull through together and support each other, as couples and best friends should. The hardest part is knowing when the road isn't just rocky anymore, you're actually heading off a cliff. My relationship after the 4-year one was abusive, and I was cheated on countless times. I didn't leave because I figured I cheated on my last girlfriend, so my current one deserves a second chance, maybe even a third or fourth, hoping she would change. We all make mistakes. They don't define us, and they don't define our worth. So please think twice before doing something like this to your partner. Consider how you would feel if you found out they had done the same to you. Being on both ends of cheating, at the time you just want what you want, and figure it can't do much harm. But having been on the cheated on end at least 10 times, I can tell you, it hurts more than anything. It destroys trust, loyalty, and love between two people, and it's incredibly hard to repair. If you're unhappy about something, speak up and change it today. Don't sit in silence and let it grow into a bigger rift or worse, make you think about going behind their back. That is all. Thank you. Edit. Absolute final edit because I know people will ask. In the screenshot it says, I didn't want to tell you because I didn't want to hurt you. Now I did it again. I had fallen for someone 2 years into our relationship and never told her. I never did anything with the girl. It was just a best friend I developed feelings for, and we talked a lot, had deep conversations. However, like most secrets, it eventually came out and caused problems between my girlfriend and me at the time. Story 17. I never physically cheated, but I did emotionally. I connected on an emotional level with an old coworker I had met years before we started working together. My ex went through my phone and saw texts where we talked about non-work related things, like an event where my coworker had been SA'd on date, and also late-night phone calls after work, usually about work or random stuff. It didn't go over well with my ex, and we broke up shortly thereafter as a result. It sucked. I still miss my ex almost all the time, but I screwed up, so I can't fault her for leaving. Story 18. How a brother of mine caught his wife cheating. Her phone was always going off, and she kept hiding it. He got curious, looked into it, and found out some guy had been texting her for a few months. She told him she was staying home to catch up on homework over the weekend. My brother and I went on a hunting trip, and he told me about it. We didn't actually leave the city. We went to my house, stayed there until it got dark. then drove back to his neighborhood in my neighbor's car. She sent him she picture saying she was at home and going to bed early that night. We snuck close to the house, and then a guy walked up, let himself in, and that's when things got real. By this point, my brother was fuming and wanted to beat the crap out of the guy. I calmed him down and told him to think about the long run. We snuck up to the house and using a night vision camera got video of them, bumping uglies in the living room. My brother wanted to confront the guy right then, so I did something drastic. I called the cops and said I'd heard a lot of yelling from the house and asked them to check it out. It kept my brother from going after the dude, who was a coworker of hers. The cops showed up, took statements, and we left. The next day, my brother pulled her iMessages off her email account and spoke to a lawyer. We gave the lawyer the messages, and when we showed up 5 days later from our hunting trip, he called her and said he had something cool and wanted her to come see it. When she came out, he served her divorce papers and kicked her out of the house. She had the police do a civil standby a few days later while she gathered her things. The house had been his before they married, so all she got to keep was some stuff they'd bought together and her car. No kids, and the prenup voided any alimony she might have gotten since he made way more money than her. The guy she was sleeping with had a criminal record. A few months later, we saw her trying to talk to my wife, saying she missed my brother and was sorry. She and the guy broke up shortly after the divorce. Edit. A few people asked if we took guns with us that night since we were supposedly going on a hunting trip. My brother knew that wasn't a smart idea. We can both carry concealed, me because of my job, him because he has a permit. But the guns were left at my house with my wife when we left. He was watching 12 years of his life fall apart, so he knew taking guns would be unwise. I agreed with his decision and left mine at home as well. Story 19. My boyfriend's sister was caught by a mutual friend. At the time, he didn't know that her fiancé had just started working with him. After realizing they were engaged and getting to know the guy, who's a really nice person, he had to confront him and tell him he saw his soon-to-be wife making out with another guy at a bar. She ended up ending the engagement and moving out, claiming she felt guilty. She said it was a drunk mistake and that she didn't know the guy. A few months later, she admitted the truth. She had actually been seeing him for months before she got caught. Funny thing is, she keeps doing this in every relationship and no one tells her boyfriends until it's too late. Story 20. We were about 6 months into living together and already mutually feeling like it might not last. One day, I came home from work and saw her sitting on the couch with a guy wearing her pink nightie, drinking coffee. I said, "Oh, hey." Walked by them, grabbed a beer, and joined them in the living room. "So, what's going on here?" I asked. "This is Paul. We just met at the bike shop," she said. "And it looks like you slept together," I said. "Yes," she admitted. Paul introduced himself, and somehow we started talking. Within a few minutes, Paul and I ended up going to the store, got more beer, and hung out at the bike shop. We became good friends. Neither of us was interested in her anymore. Good times. Story 21. I have 2 stories. One where I was the cheater, and one where my ex was the cheater. First, me. I had started loosely dating a girl I was really into. We clicked. She was gorgeous, smart, and fun. I hoped our casual flings would turn into a real relationship. Well, she delayed taking that step, and I hooked up with another girl. Fast forward, I, and a couple of my friends were hanging out in my apartment. My friend was at the computer when, suddenly, bink, "You have a message," the computer announced. My friend asked, "Can I read this aloud in a funny voice?" The message was from a friend of the girl I had hooked up with, saying she had a great time, wanted to meet again, but had lost my number. My friend read it in this cartoonish voice, and it didn't hit him until 2/3 of the way through. It was extremely awkward. The girl I was trying to date wasn't angry, but that ship had definitely sailed. Second, my ex. We dated for about 4 years and lived together for a while, but eventually went back to separate living arrangements. Fidelity and trust issues were frequent. Towards the end, she lived with 2 roommates. One of the roommates had a little pug-type dog that always wanted to sit on and lick people. It also hung out in my ex's room frequently, since its owner wasn't home very often. One night, as my ex and I were going to sleep spooning, the pug tried to snuggle itself between us. My ex said, "Gawad, this dog always wants to get right between us when you're trying to cuddle." I hadn't slept over at her place for about 2 months, and the dog had never done that before when I was around. I never got full confirmation of the truth, but I did get out. Story 22. About 20 years ago, I caught my ex. Not in action, but in bed with another guy. On Valentine's Day, with a dozen roses in my hand. What a frigging bish. Fighting would have gotten me kicked out of college, so I told the much smaller guy that once I saw him off campus, I'd kill him. 15 years and worlds later, I was at an engagement party at a bar when some friends came up and told me the guy over there was scared shitless of me and thought I was going to kill him. I looked over and couldn't stop laughing. It was so far in the past, but for some reason, he remembered it like I had sworn an oath to avenge my family. It felt good. His fear was redemption enough. Story 23, I lost my virginity to a girl I met online. Weeks later, she let slip that she was, in fact, married. I was absolutely terrified and, armed with her full name, decided to track down her husband and call him. It took me many hours and countless awkward calls until I finally found him. And when I did, I nearly backed out for fear of him coming after me. He sounded absolutely devastated, but also strangely calm, like he had already known somehow. I've never heard from them again. Later, in my one and only relationship, my girlfriend cheated on me with one of her teachers. Both were adults at the time. Well, I say cheated. She claimed it wasn't cheating because she wanted to break up with me anyway. As you can see, I'm 2 for 2 so far. And partly because of this, I don't think I want another relationship. Story 24. My ex and I had an oops pregnancy early in our relationship. I was suspicious that he was cheating, but I could never prove it because I didn't snoop through his things. I ended up miscarrying at night, and he was with his guy friends. I told him I was going to the hospital within the next 2 hours if the bleeding didn't stop, since I didn't know whether it was just a scare. He lived 15 minutes from me, and his friends lived about 20 minutes away. My mom ended up taking me because he never showed up at the hospital. I called his friends, who were also my friends, to see if he had left their house after I went to the hospital, and found out I lost the baby. They had no idea what I was talking about because they hadn't seen or spoken to him in over a month. He didn't come to my house until 5 hours after I got home from the hospital, and he had a few hickeys on his neck. He said he pinched himself. BS. The girl he was sleeping with messaged me later that week, being a total bish and telling me she was happy I miscarried. She even sent me pictures of the two of them doing it. They harassed me for a month after that and threw red-painted dolls at my front door to remind me of the miscarriage. It messed me up. I went through so many emotions and so much depression that 5 months later, I called my family to say goodbye because I was planning to go far away. My family rushed to me and helped me get through everything. My ex was eventually caught because the girl he slept with told me and sent pictures of them together. Edit. To summarize, I stayed with him for about half a year after all of this happened, during which he physically, mentally, verbally, and emotionally abused me. He blamed me for cheating on me and continued to cheat anyway. I was too depressed and afraid to leave. Eventually, I threw him out of my house and blocked and deleted him from everything. He and the girl he was cheating with continued to harass me for months after I cut them out. At the time, I wasn't speaking to my family because of a falling out. It wasn't until I called them to say goodbye during my depressive episode that my family and I became close again. They forced me to move back home until I was better. I lived with them for a year before I needed to get away from everything. I ended up moving from Michigan to Chicago, Illinois. My ex kept trying to find ways to contact me, so I had to keep blocking him and relocating. I landed an amazing job out there, and things were finally looking up. A very good client of mine had been trying to get to know me for about 6 months, but I had a huge wall up. I eventually opened up, and we're now happily married for 2 years and trying for our first child. It took a long time for things to improve, but I'm extremely happy now. What happened still leaves me with a flutter of anxiety, but I have the most understanding and supportive husband I could ever ask for. Story 25. My ex-fiancé and I lived together and worked strange hours. She at a drugstore, me as a barista. She had been spending a lot of time with her boss lately, mostly at work or going out in groups. One day, I got sent home early and wanted to surprise her. I bought dinner and flowers, walked into our room, and saw him on top of my ex. I just stared at him and said, "That's not me in our bed." She left me for him, where she had cheated on him with her now husband. It worked out great for me. I lost over 100 pounds. I'm starting grad school. And I married the most amazing woman. Story 26. I confessed I didn't actually cheat, but I went home with a girl who wasn't my girlfriend, and I kind of knew deep down that I was heading in that direction. We met at an event for newcomers in the city, hit it off, and were flirty all night. After a few drinks, she asked, "Do you want to come over, smoke some weed, and watch a movie?" I said sure. Once we got there, and she sat next to me on a 3-cushion couch, I immediately said, "I gotta go. I know we're on the path to something I'd feel bad about," and told her I was dating someone. The next evening, I told the girl I was dating. She wasn't too upset. We were both just casually seeing each other. We agreed that friendship would be better, so we did that for a while until she started dating someone seriously and I moved away. I did end up casually dating the other girl, but she moved away too. Because, of course, this is real life, not a romance novel. Story 27. I knew my fiancé had cheated on me and even knew the night it happened. But she kept lying, and I knew it would continue. I ended up confirming it by going through her IMs on her laptop. I realized it was over the moment I violated that trust, but at least I walked away knowing I had been faithful. Bonus, the IM that exposed her was the new guy apologizing for lasting less than 2 minutes in bed. They eventually got married. and divorced. Story 28. I got caught when I was 18. I was unhappy in my relationship and started playing WOW a lot, confiding in an online friend, a girl more and more. One day, before I left for Mexico, I was at my dad's with my girlfriend. He asked me about a sheet of paper on the computer desk. It was my password list, which I had used to get into his PC. I told him it was his password. She saw the paper, logged it into her memory, and I left for Mexico the next day. Smart little girlfriend of mine guessed that it might also be my Facebook password, and it was. I got a Facebook message calling me a cheating a-hole while I was in Mexico after she had used the password to read messages between me and the online girl. 10 out of 10, private investigator. 10 out of 10, miss her to this day. 10 out of 10, probably catfished. Story 29. I'm not the cheater. That would be my husband. I was looking at our credit card statements for the first time ever because I had a niggling feeling. I found some sketchy charges, cell phone bills, a hotel room, and other weird stuff. I confronted my husband, and I'll be honest, I bought whatever bullshit he fed me because I didn't want to believe he was cheating. Unbeknownst to him, I added some extensions to Chrome on his account. About a month after discovering the weird charges, I was on the phone with him. He guilted me enough that I felt bad for not trusting him, so I went to uninstall the extensions, planning to work on trusting him. Instead of uninstalling them, I discovered so much cheating, going back years. Alternate emails, a fake name, a Craigslist account, Facebook, so much. 4 years, at least 8 women. My advice, if you feel something sketchy is going on, don't let them make you feel guilty for asking. Story 30. I doubt I'll ever get the truth, but my ex and I were together for 6 years and engaged for a year and a half. We were 8 months away from our wedding, and about half of it was already paid for. Venue, videographer, photographer, flowers, and catering all had deposits, and the dress was bought and paid for. She went on a work trip to Vegas, and when she got back, she said, I don't love you anymore. She kicked me out of the apartment, and 3 weeks later, she had a new guy move in. A few months ago, about a year and a half after the split, she got engaged to him. Either she had been cheating for a while, thinking about it, or both. Either way, it was the best thing that ever happened to me, while also being the most painful thing I've ever experienced. I'm much better off now, and much happier and healthier. I'm finally almost over it, nearly 2 years later. Although she hurt me pretty badly, I can look back and see that I hated myself. I was severely overweight and in no position to love someone the way they deserved because I didn't love myself. Life will shit on you, and you either wipe it off and learn from it, or sit in it and get used to the stench. Your choice. Story 31. I came clean to my wife. My cheating consisted of becoming friends with someone I was attracted to and realizing that things often felt inappropriate. We didn't make out or do anything. I just knew I wanted to, and we spent a lot of time together. When I came clean, it was selfish. I felt like I was looking for help rather than truly admitting wrongdoing. My wife and I had been growing apart for a while. We got divorced. This was several years ago, and I still get horrible pangs of guilt. My ex-wife didn't deserve what I put her through. Since then, I've become more cynical about relationships. I don't really feel like having romantic ones. Being a great husband or partner was a defining part of me, and then it was gone. To this day, I'm still working on feeling like a good person again. Story 32. A friend of mine went on a trip to Spain with some buddies. It had been planned for 6 months. His girlfriend of 4 months didn't want him to go. When he came back, he got a call from a random guy saying something like, "Dude, I'm so sorry. I slept with your girlfriend at this party. I swear I didn't know she had a boyfriend. She added me on Facebook the day after." It turned out she had slept with 3 different guys at different parties that week while he was gone, because, in her words, he had no reason to just go away when he was with me. Story 33. My roommate and his high school sweetheart had been together for 7 years. They were engaged and buying things for the wedding. She had been seeing her ex on the side for 4.5 months. During that time, she took her bridesmaids to get dresses for the wedding, which they each paid for, picked their honeymoon location, which my roommate's mom paid for, and did a few other things you'd do if you were serious about getting married, like buying a house together. One of my roommate's friends noticed the fiancé out on a date with her ex from high school. Apparently, this guy had been a creep when my roommate and she first got together, and had gotten a few beatings in high school because of it. The friend told my roommate about the date. He found out how long it had been going on and flipped out. She was kicked out and dumped. Her family came the next day to get her things. Fast forward 8 months. I just moved in while my roommates, the cheated on guy and his brother, are going to Mexico for a week starting tomorrow since the honeymoon is already paid for. Story 34. I picked up my girlfriend from her house and she was pretty drunk. Unusual since she was usually home alone, but I didn't think much of it. I came in for a few minutes before she was ready to leave. In her room, I noticed my friend's phone on her dresser. I asked her about it and she immediately got defensive. It was obvious something had happened, but she waited until we were in the car to admit it. She confessed that he had come over, but tried to downplay it, saying she only gave a blowy, as if that made it okay. I knew she was lying. When I got angry, she started saying as many hurtful things as she could think of. Later, she admitted it had been much more than that and even talked about how hard she was going to bang him when he got back to her house. I was furious. I pulled over, opened her door, pushed her out, and drove off. Not the best reaction, but I was beyond done with her. Story 35. My ex and I had recently switched phone cases because he liked mine more. I was passed out on the couch with a 102-degree fever when I woke up and saw a phone in his hands. I jumped up, gasping, and ripped it away, only to realize it was his phone and mine was lying on the floor next to the couch. I told him I had a bad dream and lay back down to sleep. He then went through my phone, and I was woken up by him asking if I was cheating on him, to which I said yes. A messy breakup followed. Story 36. We went out, and when the bar closed, I decided it was time to go home. She and a few friends decided to keep clubbing. The next morning, I woke up in an empty bed. My calls went straight to voicemail, and I started to worry. I decided to track her phone. It was located in a hotel. I called the hotel to ask for her room and was transferred there, only for a guy to pick up. I'm still recovering from it, and the fact that we share the same friends, we all met in college, and that I see her every now and then doesn't help at all. Story 37. My ex-boyfriend told me we had to put our plans on hold because his dad, who was in poor health, had a heart attack and was in the hospital. Later that evening, I went to Walmart to buy a get well card and saw his dad there, picking up beer and donuts. I put the card back on the shelf and walked away. The next morning at work, I told a coworker what happened. She replied, "I saw your ex at Margarita's party last night, and they were getting a little dirty." Things quickly became messy and full of drama. Since I was moving back to college in a month, I let it fade after a few days of emotional chaos. I was young and more than heartbroken, I felt stupid for being gullible and betrayed. My second ex, from a 3-year relationship with someone I loved very deeply, was caught right before I was supposed to graduate college. A coworker and student of his exposed him. She had over a month's worth of gas receipts, pictures, and messages showing he had taken another girl to Illinois and done all kinds of things with her. I ended up delaying graduation by another semester and never finished my student teaching. I ended up graduating with a general degree in my field. He had told me about a girl he worked with at Olive Garden, saying she was a huge whore who thought it was fun to break couples up. Fast forward about 6 months, he started growing distant. He would come home, grab his laptop, and study for hours, completely ignoring me. I planned date nights, and he would sulk or say he had to work. I became depressed, suspicious, and exhausted. I didn't dig for evidence, even when he came home late reeking of cigarettes, even though he didn't smoke. I found out the week before Thanksgiving that he was cheating. A girl he worked with messaged me on Facebook with a ton of evidence. She asked, "How was dinner at the expensive restaurant? I heard Kyle took his girlfriend there and wanted to know how it was." I had no idea what she was talking about. She insisted it was me and got pretty rude. I told her she was mistaken and explained that I had performed with an orchestra that night and had my senior recital the next night. She finally sent me an email that turned my life upside down. This whore had been kicked out of her boyfriend's house, and my ex was putting her up in a cockroach-infested motel. The whole time, she knew about me and that we were living together, but she didn't care. She wanted him to kick me out, and he refused. She was pregnant with some other guy's baby, which I later found out. I almost didn't believe it. She was not attractive, uneducated, and clearly unstable. I confronted him, and he barely acknowledged anything. He said, "I'm just trying to keep our relationship stable so we don't end up with a messy divorce later." He grabbed a bag of his things and left. He wanted me to wait for him to get whatever this was out of his system. Or who knows what. I was living in an apartment his parents owned, and they had no idea what was going on. I completely fell apart. Everything in my life had been going so well, and it slipped through my fingers, shattering so fast. I wasn't rational at the time. Loose ends were left untied, and the next few months were really hard. I took the cats and tried moving back home with my parents, but communication with him was still easy, and he would come see me at work. After a few exhausting months, I packed everything and moved 1,200 miles away, cutting all communication and leaving him with no way to contact me. 4 years later, he sent me a letter on a World of Warcraft forum I had been active on during our relationship. I happened to check my old email, which was still linked to my account. In the letter, he explained everything that had gone through his head, how self-centered he had been, thinking only about what he didn't have instead of appreciating what he did. He said he had been brainwashed by that girl and didn't think I would actually leave. He had married another girl and was unhappy. He wanted me to come home. I got married to my current husband a month later, not caring about the ex at all. However, I developed some kind of emotional attachment disorder. It's been about 8 years since all of this, and it has affected my relationships. I'm happily married now and have a family. I have a good-paying job and don't think about him unless something like this thread comes up. I still have my cats. Story 38. My ex called me on Christmas to let me know that she had slept with her boyfriend. I was confused since I was her boyfriend at the time and asked if I had missed it. She said, "Oh, my last boyfriend. Don't worry about it. It won't happen again." Edit. I left out the breakup part earlier. I stayed with her for a while, contemplating everything. I eventually concluded that she had tried to ruin one of my holidays, so I would ruin one of hers. It was mean, but I was mad and didn't care. Around Valentine's Day, I told her we couldn't be together anymore. The day before Valentine's Day, I made sure to lead her on just enough so she wouldn't make plans with anyone else or get her hopes up, then ignored her for roughly 6 months. I'm not proud of my vengeance, but I thought it made for a good story. Story 39. I was cheating on my girlfriend at the time with a girl she knew and hated. One day, the girl and I were talking about how much we liked each other and how I was going to end things with my girlfriend. Eventually, I reached into my pocket to check the time and realized I was in the middle of a 5-minute active call with my girlfriend. I ended the call, hoping she hadn't heard anything. She had heard everything. I braced myself for the shitstorm that was coming, and it came. Story 40. Not the cheater here. My ex-husband had locked the desktop but left Facebook messages open. I usually used my laptop but needed some documents off the desktop. There it was, plain as day. Conversations about special massages with happy endings with my now ex-friend, who was temporarily living with us. I screenshot everything, saved it securely, and brought it to court during our custody trial. He denied any relationship with the ex-friend until she accidentally got pregnant by him. They're married now, but I have majority custody of our daughter. There were other factors in my favor, but still. Another slip-up? He announced his engagement to her on Facebook. I was blocked, but he forgot to block one of my old high school friends who saw it. That got screenshot too, and the judge was not happy with his deception. Story 41. I was working for her family down the beach selling ice cream. My first weekend was Memorial Day, and there were tons of college kids in my area of the beach. Long story short, the company that had been outbid by my ex's father was following me around and took photos of me wheeling girls around on my cart. Word got out that this was happening, and I had to own up to her before she found out from anyone else that it was me. Story 42. She was cheating on me with her ex, who was the brother of a friend of mine. We had moved from Missouri to Texas, and we were back in Missouri for a visit when my friend asked, "So, how cool are you with Jacob living in Houston now?" Her eyes got really big. "Oh, I didn't tell you? Yeah, he's down there, but we never really talk." I was dumb enough to let it go. Then one night, she didn't come home, and her ex posted a picture of them back together again to brag. He also sent me a message detailing how long it had been going on. About a week later, he couldn't find her. He called me, thinking I might take her back. It turned out she had met a bouncer at a bar and started seeing him. The ex messaged me because he didn't know what to do. I told him I wasn't his therapist and blocked him. She later married the bouncer. Good riddance. Who knows what happened to her ex? His brother, my friend, disowned him after he got drunk at the brother's house, tore off his front door in a rage, and threatened his family. My career took off, and I now live a drama-free life. Story 43. I wasn't the cheater, but my ex started to change her behavior. She was going out a lot more and dressing up more. She was also on her phone constantly. She took it into the shower, to the bathroom, and just wouldn't put it down. Every time I heard her giggle, she said it was something on Facebook that she found funny. One evening, she came back after a night out and talked about her evening with her friends, but her story and timing didn't add up. The next morning, she jumped in the shower and left her phone on the counter. I went through it, and it confirmed my suspicions. There were messages from a guy, explicit photos exchanged, photos of them doing it, and messages about me and how much of a loser I was. I kicked her out, and over the next year I dealt with her continued lies as almost every friend turned against me. Story 44. Not me, but my roommate. He was extremely good at cheating, and I knew he had cheated on his girlfriend with at least 20 different women. But hey, not my monkey, not my problem. One day we were all playing Call of Duty WWII, and he sent a picture of the aftermatch stats to one of the girls he was cheating with. He almost always went by his middle name, so these girls could never find him on social media. Well, his PS4 handle, which showed on the aftermatch screen, was his first and last name. The side, chick looked him up, found his Instagram and Facebook, and messaged his girlfriend. Story 45. I was the other guy. I met this girl at a non-profit event I occasionally attended, and we clicked. We started spending time together, and things moved quickly. After dating for almost 5 months, we took a 4-day vacation to Colorado. She got a couple of phone calls from work in the evenings and stepped out to take them. I didn't hear the full context, but I swear I heard her say she loved the other person. I became convinced she was cheating on me. On the last day of the trip, I snagged her phone while she was in the shower. She was married and had a kid. I was the other guy. I drove a few blocks, sat for about 30 minutes feeling sick, and then called her husband to explain everything. He was understandably furious and hurt. He thought she was on a business trip. By the end of the conversation, we agreed I should just buy her a bus ticket home and leave, and that's exactly what I did. I walked into our hotel room, handed her the ticket and phone, told her that her husband would pick her up at the bus station, packed my things, checked out, and left. She cried and tried to play the victim, but she knew she had been caught. It really sucked. I suspected nothing before that trip. She seemed like such a great girl. Months later, I offered to testify at their divorce hearing. I met her husband at the courthouse, and he thanked me for calling him. She settled at the last minute, so I didn't have to testify. Story 46. Here's a good one. My then-girlfriend installed a Big Brother recording program on my computer because she was apparently paranoid that I was cheating on her. I didn't notice it at first because it ran silently in the background. One day, while I was playing World of Warcraft, I noticed that every time I left-clicked, the computer would slightly hiccup or pause for a millisecond. For context, I'm a senior IT network and desktop admin, so I immediately knew something wasn't right and started diagnosing the problem. I ran an anti-spyware scan using Malwarebytes and discovered a Big Brother keylogger on my computer. I initially freaked out and didn't suspect my girlfriend. I thought I had been hacked. My immediate reaction was to delete the program, but I thought it through and realized it would be smarter to see what information had been collected, like credit cards or logins, so I could secure those accounts. I checked the application logs and noticed it had been installed during the day while I was at work. At the time, I was supporting my girlfriend. She lived with me, was attending school, and stayed home instead of working to raise her 2 children. Once I identified the program, I was able to locate its hidden directory and data files. When launched, the program required a password to view those files, so I could not access them. However, being the technician that I am, I came up with a plan. I backed up the data files and removed the program. I then re-downloaded the Big Brother program from their website using the free 1-month trial under my own account with my own password. After that, I restored the data files to their original locations and was able to view everything that had been captured. It turned out that the Big Brother program took a screenshot every time I left-clicked, which explained why my computer hiccuped while I was gaming. Since the game was a major resource hog, the pauses were noticeable there, but not during normal computer use. Here's the most significant part. The program was capturing not only my activity, but also my girlfriend's. In the screenshots and logs, I discovered that she was cheating on me with a man she had met in World of Warcraft. She played the game as well. They had even set up a password when they first met so that if I ever logged into her account, he would not accidentally message her and reveal the online relationship. So I did what any self-respecting adult would do. I logged into World of Warcraft, saw that he was online, and used the greeting password. During the conversation, after he said affectionate things to me, I replied while pretending to be her. I got him to reveal how long the affair had been going on and the kinds of messages and pictures they had exchanged. I then revealed myself, told him I was not upset with him, and explained that I was trying to get my life straight by breaking up with her. I said that any additional information would help me, and that he was free to continue his relationship with her if he wanted, but I asked him to help me out. He was surprisingly agreeable and shared everything I needed to know. When my girlfriend came home that night after going out with her friends, I put my version of revenge into motion. I pretended I was going to propose, sat her on the bed, and got down on one knee. I started telling her all the things I loved about her and how I envisioned our life together. At the climax, I ended with, "But none of that will ever happen because you are a lying, cheating whore," and slapped down a printout with screenshots of her conversations with the man from World of Warcraft. I immediately got up and told her she needed to pack her things in the morning, sleep on the couch or with the kids, and that it was over. Realistically, she left a week later. It took time for her to find a job and a place to move, and I wasn't about to throw those innocent kids out. That was the worst part of the breakup, saying goodbye to kids I had helped raise for 3 years since they were 2 years old. I've never told this story before except to close friends, and don't feel bad for me. It was the best thing that ever happened to me. About 3 years later, I met my now wife, and we have 2 beautiful children together. I couldn't be happier. For anyone wondering, she was very attractive and ended up getting married 3 more times. She now has 5 kids, each with different fathers, but with this last one, I think she finally learned from her cheating ways. While I couldn't care less about her, I am grateful that her kids now have a somewhat stable life. Cheers. Story 47. My wife had been distant for some time. We'd been married for 5 years and got married really young. I began having suspicions when she stopped being intimate with me. We went on a romantic vacation to Florida about a month into her being distant in October. We were never intimate on the trip. Alarm bells started ringing loudly for me. I began paying closer attention to her actions and passive-aggressive comments. I asked who she was texting, and she said, "A security guard at work is my friend. He asked my opinion on how his bedroom was decorated." I thought that was inappropriate, and it caused a huge fight. For 2 months, we spent 2 or 3 hours every night talking about what was wrong with our relationship. It was always my fault and never anything she did. Finally, I confronted her and told her I thought she was cheating. For months, she denied it. I trusted my beautiful wife because I loved her so much. In January, she was suddenly fired from work with no explanation. I later found out through a friend that the security guard had been fired on the same day. It turned out he had mishandled a guest, and my wife defended him, leaving the company open to a lawsuit, so they fired them both. Finally, in the last week of February, I hired a private investigator. I know it was ethically questionable, but I felt I had no other options. Within half an hour of me leaving for work, she was at his house. The PI documented their day and spent 6 hours following them. I confronted her that night, and she lied. When I went through the details of their day, her face dropped. I packed my things and left the next morning. It was the hardest move I've ever made, but it had to be done. They lasted 5 months before. She kicked him out. It turns out he had been abusive starting just a week after we separated. We were apart for 8 months. During that time, we both did a lot of reflection and growing up. I realized I had been a bad husband, and she realized she had been a terrible wife. Over the next few years, we focused on the important things in life: friendship, understanding, and mutual respect. We used to fight about dishes and taking out the trash. Now our only arguments are over which movie to see or which restaurant to eat at. We've been back together for 5 years and have never been happier. She encouraged me to get my degree, and I encouraged her to finish hers, which she will complete in a year. We have a beautiful 12-year-old daughter who seems to grow more adult every day. If you're in a young relationship, please don't fight over menial, mundane, everyday tasks. It can breed hatred and resentment. It's easier to take out the trash than to spend time alone or upset, away from the person you love most. Argue about the silly things and openly discuss the important ones. A separation was the best thing that ever happened to us. Please understand that we are a rarity, though. Most relationships could never handle the stress, jealousy, or forgiveness required after hurt feelings and betrayal. Please seek out counseling or any available help before making a drastic relationship decision. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you never miss an update.